Good afternoon, everyone. Thank you for joining us today for the first virtual First Tuesday event of 2021. Before introducing our speaker, we would like to acknowledge that the University of Minnesota Twin Cities is built within the traditional homelands of the Dakota people, and it's important to acknowledge the peoples on whose land we live, learn, and work as we seek to improve and strengthen our relations with our tribal nations. We also acknowledge that words alone are not enough. We must ensure that our institution, the University of Minnesota, the Carlson School of Management, provides support, resources, and programs that increase access to all aspects of higher education for our American Indian students, staff, faculty, and community members. I also want to say thank you to those alumni and friends who have been regular attendees over these 29 years. Welcome as well to those joining us for the first time today. Finally, thank you to Wells Fargo as our long-standing corporate sponsor for First Tuesday, and thank you too to Twin Cities Business for your continued media support of the speaker series. Here's our format for today. After introducing our speaker, Joe Nayquonabe, CEO, Commissioner of Corporate Affairs, and Executive Committee member of Mille Lacs Corporate Ventures, he will present, and then I'll ask him a few questions of my own before turning to you for more questions. We'll also have an opportunity at the very end to network, and we will tell you more about that at the end. But first, let me tell you more about Joe. Joe has spent his career reimagining and reinventing how American Indian tribal economies grow and prosper. In his current role, he's responsible for analyzing new business opportunities and overseeing the Mille Lacs Band of Ojibwe's existing businesses, which include Grand Casino Mille Lacs and Grand Casino Hinckley. The company also owns several companies across the hospitality industry, including hotels and restaurants in downtown St. Paul, Minneapolis, across Minnesota, and in Oklahoma, as well as a marketing firm and other businesses in Minnesota. The mission of Mille Lacs Corporate Ventures, which employs more than 3,000 people, is to improve the economic well-being for current and future generations of Mille Lacs Band members by making strategic investments and acquisitions and skillfully managing assets. Through economic diversification and growth, guided by core values of trust, integrity, and respect, the company believes that it will allow the band to remain sovereign and self-sufficient for generations to come. Additionally, Joe is focused on improving communities in and around the reservation. He and his team have started an adapter school program and an affordable housing project called Lady Luck Estates in Hinckley. Mille Lacs Corporate Ventures is part of the tribal government's executive branch. Joe sits on 2 ceremonial drums for his tribe, and he studies the Ojibwe language as well. Joe earned a bachelor's degree in marketing from St. Cloud University, and I'm proud to say he's an MBA from the Carlson School of Management, as well as a Master of Tribal Administration and Governance from the University of Minnesota Duluth. He's a member of 20 boards, including the National Diversity Advisory Board for the University of Minnesota, the American Indian Advisory Board, and Herberger Business School Advisory Board for St. Cloud State University, Downtown St. Paul Alliance, Visit St. Paul, the American Red Cross Minneapolis region, the Minnesota Historical Society, and the Federal Reserve Bank of Minneapolis Tribal Gaming and Hospitality magazine. In 2018, he was named the most admired CEO by Minneapolis St. Paul Business Journal. Joe is the first Native American speaker in the series. It's been far too long for that to happen, but I'm so grateful that you're with us today and look forward to learning from you. Joe, take it away.
All right. Thank you, Dean Zahir. I'm going to try to put this up here. How's that looking for folks? Are we seeing the slide presentation?
Looks good.
All right. Perfect. So I wanted to start out, once again, thank you, Dean Zahir. I also want to send a thank you out to Sarah Barton, who produced all of the material today and made these slides look really cool. So we're going to have a fun conversation this afternoon. And I wanted to start by Introducing myself in my language, Jigéwe Gabo Indigenous, Jo Nayquonabe Indigu, Maingan and Dudame, Mississauga Iganing and Dunjaba, Nisawagn and Donasug, Ajwana Kudukwe, Minawa Ogama Obikwe, Minawa Ogama Sekwe, Niwidige Oma, Mississauga Iganing. And I like to start my presentations out by recognizing my language, and throughout this introduction, it's a reminder to me and to Anishinaabe people when we introduce ourselves in this way about all of the people that contribute to our lives. So in this introduction, I introduce my Went'as, which would be similar to godparents who gave me my name, Jigéwe Gaba, which is he who looks out over the edge. I also recognize all of my fellow Maingan or Wolf Clan members across Anishinaabe country who are always there to urge me and push me on. I recognize Mississauga Iganing, which is the community that I live and grow up in, up here, District 1 of the Mille Lacs Band on the west shores of Lake Mille Lacs. I recognize my daughters, my 3 beautiful daughters, and speak their names, and also recognize my wife, the backbone of everything I do. And I told her this morning, and I tell her just about every morning, how grateful I am for her love and her care coming into my life. And this introduction helps me recognize those folks. Every presentation I start with, and what we do at Mille Lacs Corporate Ventures is we're a family first company, so I have to feature my family up front here. And I picked 3 pictures to start the presentation. The young, beautiful girl on the left of the screen, that's my daughter, my youngest daughter, Sienna Ogama Sekwe, graduating from Head Start. I love that as a picture. And then the wonderful row of folks there, those are elders from the Mille Lacs Band of Ojibwe, and this picture was captured during the process of them writing books in conjunction with the Minnesota Historical Society, where we're publishing stories and capturing history of the Mille Lacs Band of Ojibwe people and telling stories for children. And I love the dichotomy of those 2 pictures, and it sums up the responsibilities that we have at Mille Lacs Corporate Ventures, the generations that are here today, that are growing, and also the generations of the past that are still teaching us their wisdom. And really that breadth of generations is what we're responsible for here at the company. And then I also shared a picture of the new Mille Lacs Band of Ojibwe reservation signs that have gone up around our community, where the state of Minnesota has recognized our boundaries once again in our homelands. And that's just an important part of once again, of the mission of the Mille Lacs Band, but also the mission of Mille Lacs Corporate Ventures. And it feels really good to see those things up there. So I wanted to share that as we get going here. In our company, we try to be a career accelerant. Those are the words that we use. And part of being a career accelerant is to help folks that join Mille Lacs Corporate Ventures go through what we call it just a transformational leadership process. And in that, there are really 5 steps that we're asking people about every day. The first one is, what are you doing to feed your mind? So how are you improving your thinking and taking in different things to feed your mind? What are you doing to strengthen your body? What are you doing to get in proximity of the things and the people that are important to you and things that can advance your mission? And what are you doing to give back to your communities? And we have this big give more than you ever expect to receive back kind of mentality at Mille Lacs Corporate Ventures. And then the 5th element is finding great role models. So hence the name of this presentation, which is learning from influential leaders. It's not uncommon that during our one-on-one sessions that we have with the folks at Mille Lacs Corporate Ventures and the folks that report to me, that when we're not talking about business or numbers or the economy or the coronavirus or things that we're dealing with and tackling in our company, we might just spend an hour talking about influential leaders that are affecting your life at this point in time. So who are those key role models that are helping to drive or tell a story about what you're tackling at this time? So today I've kind of turned the tables on that, and I'm going to share mine. And throughout the presentation or throughout the year, there are obviously different people coming in and out of our lives that are influencing us, and different role models that are coming in and out. I'm going to share 3 today, and in that, hopefully tell a little bit of a story so that you can walk out of your lunch hour today knowing more about Mille Lacs Corporate Ventures, more about American Indians, more about the Mille Lacs Band, and hopefully more about what we represent as people here in Greater Minnesota. So that's the goal today, and we're gonna get right at it. So the first leader I want to talk about is John Wooden. I was a high school basketball player for the Great Red Lake Nation. So there's almost always somebody in the basketball world that's part of my list of influential leaders. And I love John Wooden for many reasons. First of all, he was a winner. So he's the winningest coach in basketball history for college basketball, won a ton of championships, influenced a lot of young people to join the game. And he really broadened the game. And for those reasons alone, he's one of the greatest of all time and should definitely be on the short list of influential leaders that we can learn from. But one of the things that I really love is the story that came from Bill Walton, one of John Wooden's greatest players at UCLA. And he told this story about that really, to me, exemplifies John Wooden, but also exemplifies how we act at Mille Lacs Corporate Ventures. And he had the motto was control what you can control and don't worry about the rest. So it had this really stoic mentality. He knew that he couldn't control if a player was going to go off for 50 points during the next game. He couldn't control how many superstars were on the team that they were going to play this weekend. But he knew what he could control. He could control the game plan. He could control how hard they were working in practice. And he really got down into the weeds on controlling what you can control and not worrying about the rest. These real stoic principles. And the thing I love about John Wooden is that it wasn't just locker room talk. I've had a lot of coaches in my life on the basketball court and off, and a lot of times those things are just talk, but John Wooden meant these things. And the story that Bill Walton told in his book was about the first time. So John Wooden's out recruiting all of these great basketball players from all around the world. And then they come into UCLA and they get their very first meeting with Coach Wooden, the Wizard of Westwood. And everybody's just excited to meet the coach. And this is going to be the first chance for him to impart wisdom on them as they make their way and their effort towards the championship game. And he gathered all the freshmen around and he sat them down on the court in a circle. And they looked at the coach, and the coach had no shoes on. He also had no socks on. So they thought that was weird. But he said, men, the first thing I'm going to teach you is how to put your socks on without any wrinkles. He said, if you have wrinkles in your socks, and those wrinkles are bad enough to cause blisters on your feet, and those blisters are bad enough to cause injuries to you, and that's bad enough to cause you to miss time on our floor, then that's bad enough to affect the team, and that's bad enough to affect the coach's performance. So he whittled it down. He wasn't just talking smack. He meant what he said. Everything you can control, focus on that, and don't worry about the rest. So we kind of take that to heart at Mille Lacs Corporate Ventures. And on the screen, if this is what the gaming landscape in Minnesota looked like, if it was just Grand Casino, first of all, that would be terrific for us and terrific for people in Minnesota because we do it better than everybody else. But that's not really the case. And there are things outside of our control. We have 18 other Indian casinos that we compete with across the state, and every one of them have gone through the same eras of gaming that we have. We have 2 race tracks and card rooms that we compete with. And then we also have the illegal activity of the Minnesota State Lottery that we also compete with in their electronic pull tabs and things of that nature. So pressure has just consistently kind of made its way into our gaming business and put a lot of pressure on Grand Casino to grow, things that are completely out of our control, but things that we have to keep in mind. We also can't control just the natural nature of an industry. So just like any other industry, gaming has gone through the birth stage, the growth stage, it's gone through maturity and is in somewhat of a decline in the St. Paul region, as you can see from the blue bar on the blue line on the graph on your screen. We can't control the fact that our industry is just getting mature and growth is starting to slow down. We also can't control the population growth of the Mille Lacs Band. So at the same as the Mille Lacs Band has grown in population, that increases the need for us to grow as a company so that we can continue to provide resources for the tribe to meet their mission. And what we recognize really is that our core business of gaming is slowing down. And as a company, Mille Lacs Corporate Ventures had to make a shift in how we were investing and what we were spending our time, energy, and capital on. And that really represents the shift in strategy that we've made in the last 8 years as we look towards growing our portfolio, becoming more than just a casino company, and really trying to grow outside of our gaming lane and into other lanes. And it meant that we had to better focus on utilizing our expertise. So try not to do things that we don't really bring a lot to the party. And we had done things in the past that really were kind of suspect business decisions. And in this case today, our shift is really about leveraging our expertise. It's about being active investors. The band already has a very a large passive investment portfolio. And from the MLCV perspective, we wanted to be active investors. We wanted to be able to steer the destiny of our investment decisions and really be a hands-on active owner. We didn't want to chase, to put it in baseball terms, that we weren't trying to hit a home run. We felt like we hit a home run with gaming. So we're not chasing speculative markets. We're really looking at stable markets with more predictable returns. And that really leads to the last part, is that we're really patient. So we're patient in what we look for to invest in. And we're also long-term investors. So we take a much broader look at the investment that we're doing. We strive to see about 1,000 deals every year, and we're just kind of putting those down a funnel. So we'll try to see 1,000 deals. We'll whittle that down to about 300 that we'll take a decent look at. And then we're really trying to get down to about 25 that we're doing really deep due diligence on. And our goal is to close 1 to 3 of those a year. But if we close 0, we're perfectly fine with that. We're super patient about what we're looking for to invest in, knowing that we have to grow the company. And this shift in mentality, or shift in how we're doing things, and just simply that, just controlling what we can control, not worrying about what the noise is around us, not striving to be anything outside of our means, has really helped us grow our portfolio in the last year into hospitality sector. So taking our expertise in gaming, where we're welcoming 5 million people through our doors in a non-COVID year at Grand Casinos, and leveraging, we feel like we know how to take care of a guest, how to attract a guest. And we're trying to leverage all of the expertise we have in that we've accumulated since 1991. We're in marketing and technology companies. We have a vast portfolio of small businesses throughout East Central Minnesota, and that's just part of our DNA. The Mille Lacs Band's been caring for East Central Minnesota for hundreds of years, even prior to the nation becoming a thing, and way prior than the state of Minnesota becoming a thing. We've been here taking care of this area. So that's important to us. And then most recently, we've entered the government contracting space, where now we're doing business all around the world. So we've really seen some great things in this. And controlling what you can control helps in this broader scale. It also helps in a more pinpointed scale. And it took Sarah an hour to cut this coronavirus out and put it into this presentation. So if it feels like we're jamming this in here, definitely trust your instincts. But with that said, the slide looks cool, and it does bring up the point where in this pandemic, we really boiled down right to those core principles of how we run the company broadly, and aimed it right at the pandemic. It was, what can we control? Who are the people? We knew we had to take care of our community first, the Mille Lacs Band community. We knew that the preconditions for the virus that we had, that were rampant on the reservation. So our goal was to keep traffic off of the reservation as much as we could. So we were the first casino in the state to close our doors, so that we could take a pause on our business and figure out how we could reinvent what the experience is here inside of the Grand Casino walls. We knew we had to take care of our associates, so we focused tightly on how can we get them relief from what we're doing, and also what can we do on the federal and state level to battle for relief for our associate base and other folks in the area. But really, it was just this whole idea of controlling what we can control, all the way down to just the finest detail in how we kind of got through the pandemic. So that's the summary on John Wooden and how he's influencing us and helps us kind of tell a story about who we are as a company. I'll move on to this next guy, one of my favorite guys. This is Lin Manuel Miranda. We love him, and obviously he's super famous for the show Hamilton, which we love. And again, I mean, this guy should be influencing everybody with the success that he has and the passion that he has for what he's doing and what he's been able to do on Broadway. But the thing that really got us, and that gets me, was this. I was watching his interview with Charlie Rose, and Lin Manuel was talking about kind of how privileged he was that his father and mother had worked in government and had been able to get him inside this private school in New York City. And he wasn't smarter than any of the kids. He wasn't funnier than half of the kids. So he didn't really know why he was in this private school or how he was fitting in. And Charlie Rose had to stop him. He said, Lin Manuel, stop. Like, if all of these folks were so wonderful and you weren't, why am I here talking to you and not them? And he said this really profound thing that I loved. And he said, I picked a lane and I started running out ahead of everyone else. So he picked a lane and just started getting great at what that lane was. So obviously his lane was Broadway. He learned, and it's just fascinating. He learned all of the music, all of the words, all of the storylines, all of the plots of every single Broadway story ever told. And he learned all of that. So he just found something he was good at, found something he loved, found something he was going to enjoy. And he didn't waste any time sticking around with his peers. He just ran way out in front of something that he loved and something that he knew he could do. And it wasn't simply about passion. I think that's one of the things that maybe annoys me a little bit, and I think we should look out for, is that you hear people talk about passion, find your passion and pursue that thing. And I think that's just I kind of think that's BS in a lot of ways. I think it's really what you got to do, find something you're good at. And when you find something that you're good at, just run way out ahead of everybody else. And that's really exemplifies what we're trying to do at Mille Lacs Corporate Ventures. And we call it surfing where the waves are. And this is my favorite. We also squeezed my favorite painting in here, which I love. But really surfing where the waves are. So let's not try to make anything up. Let's really stick to what we're good at and what we have, where we have advantages. And let's just do those things, and let's do them at a really high level. And that's really what we're trying to do at Mille Lacs Corporate Ventures. So we're in these lanes of businesses that we've picked and that we're trying to run way out ahead on are obviously gaming. So we love gaming. It's in our DNA. I tell everybody that there's no dollar like a gaming dollar. We have incredible margins. We love this business. We love the data that comes off of it, and what we're learning about our consumers every day is such a magnificent thing. And we're trying to deliver just great products. And so far we're only in this Minnesota market, but we definitely have our eyes set on at least a national level strategy in taking what we can do at Grand Casino and beyond into some sort of national scale. So we're really excited about that lane. Armada Dizzy Investments is our hospitality company. Once again, we just love guests, and we're so good at attracting them. We're so good at welcoming them and making them feel important, and really speaking to the human instincts that people have about how they select brands, and that's something that we're running out in front of our marketing groups. So we're about an hour and a half away from the Twin Cities metro area. Our biggest competitor is about 25 minutes away. They're light years behind us in how good of an experience they can provide, but they're so much closer to the metro area than we are. So we've always had to be this scrappy group from central Minnesota that's had to be better marketers, better with technology, quicker, faster, more nimble. So marketing is something that we're good at, something that we love, and it's another area and lane that we're running out in front of. I mentioned our in-district investing. So we love East Central Minnesota. We're doing everything we can here to represent for Greater Minnesota and trying to bring capital and bring projects into Greater Minnesota. And that's one that we really love. And then of course, the Muckwa Global, talk about surfing where the waves are. There's a $25 billion set aside annually from the federal government aimed at minority and tribal owned businesses that have 8A certification. So we achieved and obtained our 8A certification last year in March, just before the pandemic really hit in a significant way here in the US. And since then, we've been able to accumulate, I think we're right around 50 million, heading towards $100 million in contracts that we've won so far with that company, doing a lot of different things around the world. So we're really excited about that as well. So pick a lane, run out as fast as you can. All right. This next guy, and this is the last one I'm gonna share today. This is Korczak Julikowski. Those of you that are sculpting buffs, is that a thing? One of the most famous sculptors of our time, responsible, and for me anyway, my favorite work that he's done and started is the Crazy Horse Monument in South Dakota. And the Lakota people, I mean, this is just a beautiful picture of what's planned and what's going on there right now. But Korczak got invited out to South Dakota. In the US had just finished this monument towards 4 of their greatest leaders that they had ever that had ever kind of graced the U.S. with their wonderful leadership, and it was right in the Black Hills, and the Lakota people, they wanted the same thing. They wanted this. They wanted to recognize Crazy Horse, one of the greatest leaders of their people, and they had this master vision about having a monument um, similarly to represent their people. And in Korchak, the thing I love about this story and about this guy is that he got out there and he looked at that mountain. Like, I just look at this, I'll back up to this picture. Like, he just looked out there, and he bought into the vision that Chief Standing Bear had. And he knew, looking at that mountain at that time, that it was going to take him, if they were going to do it the way they wanted to do it, which they were going to raise the funds and the way they wanted to do it, it was going to take 50, 60, 70 years. It might take 100 years to get this project done. And he didn't bat an eye. The why was so important for him. Giving the Lakota people their beautiful kind of tribute to their leader was something so important to him, so important to the people that wanted him to work on it, that he bought into it. He knew he would never see the end. He knew he would never bask in the glory of finishing the project. And that's what I love about him. That's what I love about his story. And that's the influence that it has on me and on Mille Lacs Corporate Ventures. It's about having the courage to start something, knowing that you may never see the completion. And I think that's in today's world, we're so wrapped up and so enthralled in immediate gratification. The social media platforms have made that so they've accelerated our love and want. We want the like, we want the love, we want you to hit that button. We're posting the burger that we ate on our Instagram feed, and then we eat the burger and we get done and we look at our Instagram feed to see if anybody liked it. And if they didn't, then we're taking that off and we're posting something else or saying something more provocative to see if we can get those likes, because we're so after that thing, that immediate gratification. And that's not what he did. That's really not what we do at Mille Lacs Corporate Ventures. We're focused on the long run. And if we see big challenges and big problems in our community, amongst our owners or in our company, our goal is to tackle those things. It doesn't make it any less important for us to tackle the big things. Have the courage to tackle something that we might not see the completion of. And the big things that I mentioned on this particular presentation, I'll start out with just language preservation. Like, will we ever see a fully fluent Mille Lacs Band of Ojibwe community? Probably not in my lifetime, but it doesn't make it any less important for me to tackle that. I just saw a stat a couple of days ago. There are 250,000 Anishinaabe people in North America. So between the United States and Canada, right now there are 25,000 of them that still speak our language, and only 1,000 of those folks live in the US. So amongst the Anishinaabe or Ojibwe people that are here and spread out through Michigan, mostly in Michigan, Wisconsin, and Minnesota, there are only 1,000 speakers of our language left. I know here in our community, we just lost one last week, one of our drum keepers. And so hanging on to our language is something that's very important to us, and something that we're tackling through the profits that we generate from Mille Lacs Corporate Ventures. A drug-free community, we're tackling that right now. The stats are what they are in the state of Minnesota. If you're responding to a opioid overdose, it's 5 times more likely than any other race that there's an American Indian on the other side of that response. 5 times more likely. So the opioid epidemic has ravaged our communities, and that's something that through Mille Lacs Corporate Ventures, we're able to tackle on in the tribal government, tribal police, tribal health and human services divisions here at Mille Lacs Band of Ojibwe. And then education, the state of Minnesota, I don't know what we're at right now. I know we were at 49th in the country at graduating American Indian students at one point in time. I think we moved up to 47 or 46. I'm not sure. But that's a serious problem. I think, we have a lot of educators on the line for this call, and we understand what the long-term effects and ramifications of that are. And that's something that we're trying to tackle. We tackle that through our Adopt a School program. We tackle that through our internship program that we do for local students. I'm proud of our local school district, the Onamia Public School District here, by far led the state and probably led the nation for public schools on graduating American Indian students in last year. And those are the kind of positive trajectories that we want to see in our communities. And those are the things that we're tackling, or at least having the courage to tackle in the days that we go. And everything, once again, as I wrap up here, that we do at Mille Lacs Corporate Ventures is we do it so that our communities can continue to do the things that they love. And that's the practicing of our language, the practicing of our culture. We found this cool picture of a drum group at the powwow, and I think it just exemplifies. You see the kids around staring in awe and recording the music. These are the superstars of our culture, and I think it's just it kind of captures in one photo the future that we are working towards here at Mille Lacs Corporate Ventures. So with that, I just want to say miigwech, which is Ojibwe Moen, for thank you for giving me this opportunity to do some storytelling today for Mille Lacs Corporate Ventures and for the Mille Lacs Band of Ojibwe. And I will turn it back over to Dean Zahir.
Well, thank you, Joe. This has been really educational for me too, just to know how much you're involved with, just investing in East Central Minnesota, investing in the communities around you to make lives better. I think that's fantastic. I just love that family first approach that you talked about, but also the lessons that you're talking about. Don't worry about controlling what you can't control, and focus on what you do best and run ahead of everyone else. And finally, of course, this whole thing about the long-term view. I think that's so special. I just love the lessons that you've conveyed to us. I have a question. I mean, which is probably a little more sort of immediate, in the sense, in the past 1 year, I know the pandemic has sort of taken over so many of our lives. I mean, we've just thinking about how to cope through this, how to manage through this has been such an immense effort. And I was just wondering, I mean, is there any particular lesson that you've taken away from this past year, and something that may stay with you as you go forward? Or is that, are there things that you've done in terms of managing your operations that you might, continue as you go forward?
Yeah. I think there are a few. I think the big one that I would mention off the bat, I thought early on, maybe really early on, 3 weeks in maybe to the shutdown, we closed our doors at Grand Casinos for 77 days. So you can imagine the immense fear that we had and that the tribe had. So we serve as the tax base for the Mille Lacs Band. So if you think about all of the things that government does on our behalf, whether you're on a city, state, or federal level, the Mille Lacs Band does all of that without any tax base. So they're utilizing our profits to do health and human services, education, open community centers, pay the doctors, dentists, nurses, all of the folks that really make life possible, all the infrastructure development. So when your main life bread is shut off for a little bit, it's really scary. And I think but what we did was we really considered it we looked at it as a blessing. We just pivoted. We said, all right, let's stop looking at this and being fearful, and let's look at it as a blessing. And if it is a blessing, that means that when we come out the other end of this, we'll be better off than we were as we went in. So I think that's what we did every step of the way for every one of the businesses in the portfolio, was let's look better. If that means that we need to look a little leaner, or if that means we need to focus more on perceived value rather than cost cutting and margin, then let's do that. But the pivot was let's look at this as a blessing. How often do you get to pause your business and make the changes that you might have been planning for the next 5 years? So I think that's kind of what we did. It was like 5 years. Our 5-year outlook was all of a sudden truncated into, wow, I think we can actually accomplish this in 5 weeks. And that's now that because you didn't have all of this other noise that was going on around you running the business. So I think that's one of the things. I think so. Yeah, I'll leave it at that.
I mean, that's really interesting, because for all of us, this pandemic in a way has been a portal to a future, and a kind of an accelerated portal, forcing us to make decisions that we may have taken much longer to make otherwise. So I think that makes a whole lot of sense. I was also very interested in what you said about your focus on, one of the things that you want to focus on is education, and the fact that you've had so much success with the UNAMIA schools is great. I mean, I think that's fantastic. I would love to know how the Carlson School and the University of Minnesota can partner with you more to sort of make sure that there is access to those students who want to go on for higher education and things like that. And how can we make that happen? That's something that I'd be very interested in. But I know that even as a corporation, you've been using our executive education services at the Carlson School quite a bit. And I was wondering, is it, is this ongoing education even within your company something that is, that you invest in, and how do you kind of, how has it influenced, what's the impact it has had on your leaders or on your company and on the Band of Ojibwe, really?
Mm-hmm. Oh, that's a great question. Yeah, I think the mentality that we have is every year you have to re-qualify for your job. So we look out, including myself, we look out the next year for sure, but then the next year to 3 years, and what's going to be necessary. What are the things that are going to drive and power our businesses? And then what deficiencies do we have in our own knowledge? And that's kind of what, and from there we have to build a plan. Like, we have to make sure we're dialing up to the qualifications that are going to be necessary to engage in the thinking that's going to really power idea making and hopefully influence action and innovation and across the portfolio. But you can't really talk about that stuff and you can't really engage in that thinking unless you yourself have really invested in feeding your mind and improving your skill set. And I think that's what we use the executive education for. It's like so you guys, as long as Carlson's powering forward and being innovative, that's really such an immense resource for all of the companies here in the Twin Cities area. And we use it in that way. You help us re-qualify for our jobs and the future jobs that we're going to have. So that's how we look at it.
Well, thank you, Joe. That's actually very heartening to me, because, one of the things we are trying to promote is this idea of lifelong learning for alumni, for all of the companies around. So thank you for that plug, and so that's wonderful to hear. I think at this point, I know there are questions coming from the audience, and I'd love to turn it over. So Amy, will you sort of help us with the Q&A?
Of course. Joe, you're getting lots of love here through our chat and through the Q&A. We've got a friend of ours from Argentina, a former alum who is thankful for your presentation, and someone else that said that they thank you for your message today and it resonates with them as they set their goals and intentions for this year. So you're striking some chords. I think folks are really interested in, if you can tell us a little bit about your career path. How did you become the CEO, and what's your career path, and why kind of the quote unquote return to the tribal business?
Oh, awesome. Yeah, I did it the old-fashioned way. I started from the bottom, and now I'm here. That's a hip hop song, by the way. But no, I started out as an intern here at Mille Lacs Corporate Ventures, and the fell in love with data, and became my first job out of undergrad was the database marketing manager. So my job was to pour through data and come up with crazy promotional ideas, and really got lucky. I think the industry, the gaming industry prior to that, was a lot about guest service. So there was this incredible guest service orientation where your whole job and your whole organization was built around just taking care of people that were coming through the doors. The big whale would come in and you'd rub their shoulders and give them comps and take care of them while they were there. And then Gary Loveman, who became the CEO of Harrah's, came out of the Harvard Business School, and he started reinventing everything. And he wrote a great paper in the Harvard Business Review called "Diamonds in the Data Mine." And that was really signaled this transition from guest service into data science. And I was coming fresh out of college. I knew how to use a computer and how to mine data and how to tell a story with data. So the job I got out of school was like the perfect fit for me. So I really reinvented how Grand Casinos was doing direct mail at the time, and then accelerated up from there. I became the director of player development, which was did the same thing, applied data science to just to the higher end set of guests, and accelerated the growth of the company, and then became the director of marketing and the VP of marketing over as I continued to climb that marketing career path. And I think the cool thing about marketers, and I'm still a marketer, I think, like I love marketing. And the cool thing about marketers is that you interact with everybody in the company. Like everybody wants a piece of you because you're helping to tell the best story. You're helping to build the best brands, and you're helping to really drive top line growth. And so I became friends with everybody in the company, built a lot of great relationships. So that way, when my name was on the short list to become the CEO, nobody had any fear about that, and people were excited about it because I was able to build relationships for over a decade in the marketing lane, and so that's where I ascended to. And the being here is really about my parents. In general, we grew up for the past 400 or 500 years, my family has been serving the tribe, and that was just an understanding that we had growing up, was that you would go to school, you'd get a credential, and you'd get some experience, and you'd get some education, and then you'd bring that back to the tribe. And I owe that to my dad and my mom. I also owe that to the chief executive at the time when I was growing up, Art Gabo, whose picture hangs up behind me here, Marge Anderson and Melanie Benjamin. They've been the three chiefs of our tribe since I've been alive. And every one of them said the same thing, go out and get this experience that we need as a tribe, and then bring that back and make a difference in our community. So I was told that, since I was a little kid, and that's what I did. I listened well.
Thank you. Joe, is there an industry or segment that you're eyeing for future growth?
Yeah, I think we think that there's a lot to leverage in the data science, particularly around slot machines. So we have a goal of really building a company around utilizing our data and information that we have, using AI and other tools that tribes might not have access. We're fortunate to have access to, and fortunate to have made those investments in. And our goal right now is to try to bring that into Indian country and help improve the slot machine experience for gamers across the nation. So I think we're really interested in that. We also recognize that there's really we're in this kind of era of dispersion where everything that we would typically do in a brick and mortar space is really being dispersed to our phones. And so I think there's some investment that we're going to have to make there, whether it's in sports betting is probably the first and obvious place we're going to have to go. But then even beyond mobile sports betting, I think there's other development that's going to happen in that particular area. So I think as far as adding lanes, I don't think at this point in time we're not adding lanes. We're trying to get deeper into the lanes that we're in, and trying to grow in each of those lanes. And they're all changing. Hospitality is changing. We own a lot of conventional hospitality, and I think if the Airbnb IPO has anything to say about what the future of hospitality is going to look like, we want to be ahead of that and thinking about where hospitality is going to go and where our future investments in that will be. So that's how I would answer that.
Thank you. We have a attendee wondering how your use of technology has possibly shifted or evolved in the last year due to the pandemic. And are you enabling technology differently? And if so, how?
Yeah, I think we've invested in a lot. I think the biggest investments in technology that we've made in the past year have all been related to being able to keep our Grand Casino doors open. So we've invested in non-invasive temporal scanners. So people walk through our doors. We're taking their temperatures right through our surveillance system and kind of following that along, so we know if they're running a risk of showing any symptoms of COVID. So we've invested a lot in keeping that environment safe. Also, different cleaning products that we're using to clean the casino floors and the hotel rooms, and like any of the weird, crazy stuff that you would think has evolved to keep areas safe and clean. Those are really where we've been investing most of our technology. I think the other investments we're making are really in artificial intelligence platforms for our data scientists. So we're trying to get deeper into what we know and what we can possibly know about guests. How can we get down to spin level data, so that we're not just looking at your visit. We're looking at all the way down to the single spin you're making when you're hitting that button on the slot machine. And what is that telling? How is that helping us tell a richer story about how we can influence your future visits? So I think those are the other deeper investments that we're making in technology.
Great. Do you have any plans to get into sustainable manufacturing at all?
Manufacturing I would say no. I mean, the short answer is no. It's hard. We have another rule: don't do things that are hard. And the one thing from our standpoint, if we were to do it, we would want to do it on the reservation where we could provide jobs to folks. And I think one thing that we've ran into is just what it kind of speaks to the education, like your workforce has to be skilled enough in order to do the type of manufacturing that you're looking for. And I think that's kind of one of the things in East Central Minnesota that we're trying to solve is how do you keep more of the talent? How do you attract more of the talent back? So that way you have this big base of talent where you can actually think about other industries to bring into East Central Minnesota. So we're tackling, so it's kind of like cart before the horse type of stuff. So what we're trying to address are the deficiencies in housing. So a lot of our investments that we're making, so the dean mentioned Lady Luck Estates. We have another project in Onamia that we're investing in. So we're really trying to address the quality, affordable housing, address education, and I think if we can change and alter the trajectory in a positive way on some of those things that make for community, I think that will lead to other forms of industry that we can invest in down the road. But I don't see that as a 3 to 5 year thing. That's probably going to be more like that's probably a 15, 20 year type of thing where we'll start tackling some of that stuff. Let's see what impact we can make on this next generation, and then see if we can do something cool on the generations beyond that with other industries in East Central Minnesota. So that's what my thoughts are on that.
Joe, I think that's fits so well with your long-term orientation, just your investments, that you're making now to get the educational level up and to get the people into affordable housing and safer housing and all of those things. I think, and the idea that you're looking for not just the next generation but generations ahead. I think that's such a great lesson for all of us. And anyway, thank you so much. A hearty miigwech. Well, thank you for a wonderful presentation and a conversation today. I'm so delighted that you were able to join us.